Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being so patient and waiting for us for a few minutes. So thank you so much for coming to our webinar. So this is studying postgraduate law at Queen Mary University of London, but also with an IP focus. My name is Karina Lynn. I'm the Senior Marketing and Communications Officer for the School of Law at Queen Mary, and I am with my lovely colleague here, Professor Duncan Matthews. How this will run is Duncan will go through his slides, talk to you about what it's like studying at Queen Mary, talk to you about studying IP. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll respond to them as I can. And then any specific questions for Duncan or about IP or anything like that can be asked at the end. So I'll hand it over to you, Duncan.
Thank you, Karina, and welcome everybody. It's nice to meet you online. I hope we'll see you in London sometime soon. I've been a professor here at Queen Mary in the Centre for Commercial Law Studies for over 20 years now. So I hope I'm well placed to explain to you a little bit more about the university and the LLM program and studying here at Queen Mary. So I'm sitting here in my office in London. And welcome to you in all different parts of the world today. So let's start the presentation, and I have some slides to show you. Okay, so my office is actually on the first floor. So that first set of windows where the purple taxi is, that's where I'm sitting right now. So Lincoln's Inn Fields is a dedicated postgraduate law center here in the legal heart of London. And I'll say more about the significance of our location in the legal heart of London a bit later. I've just traveled to the university on the classic form of London transportation, the London Underground. And we're just 2 stops away from Oxford Circus, the main shopping area in downtown London. So our location is ideal for us both as lawyers and for being very central for the students. The main campus of the university is in the east of the city, and actually that's close to where I live. And the history of Queen Mary in terms of the Mile End campus was that, well, Queen Mary, who is she? Queen Mary was the great-grandmother of our current King Charles III. And when the university was set up in the early 1920s, it was intended to be located in a place where working people were living. So the location of the university in the east of London is important for us in terms of our history. And it's also unusual that most of the students are offered campus accommodation. So undergraduates, certainly in their first years, and many postgraduates actually live in university halls of residence close to the Mile End campus, on the Mile End campus. So you start to see the kind of significance of having the 2 locations. One reflects our status in the legal heart of London, here in Lincoln's Inn Fields, and the other our history of Queen Mary in the Mile End campus, where much of the student accommodation is located. And the journey time between the 2, using the central line of London Underground, is about 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you wanted to travel and actually arrive in our building. We're 2 minutes away from Holborn Tube Station, London Underground. So that's kind of our location and how we fit in with the main buildings of the university. Now let's get on to the important stuff, the rankings. Now I'm very pleased because I actually had to update this slide earlier today. Now on the bottom row in the middle, you'll see one of the orange circles says 46th in the Times Higher Education World University Rankings by subject. So these are rankings by subjects, such as in this case law. And I'm pleased to say that Queen Mary has moved up 4 places to number 46 worldwide, and we're in very good company with the other top universities in the world. So we're well inside the top 50 in terms of our law subject rankings. Let's now go top left to the number which says seventh in the UK QS survey rankings, subject rankings. The QS survey, as you may know, is one of the other very prestigious world rankings. And for law, we're ranked seventh for law amongst universities in the United Kingdom. So again, very important for us to be in the top 10 there. In the UK, the Guardian newspaper also has league tables, and there we're ranked 11, so just outside the top 10. And in terms of research, now I'm looking at the number 15th on the top right. Now, in the United Kingdom, in addition to teaching students and training young lawyers, we also, of course, we're a leading research university, and we're a member of the so-called Russell Group of elite universities. Every few years in the UK, the research quality of universities is assessed by something called the Research Excellence Framework. Now, at the bottom of that circle, where it says 15th in the UK for research, it refers to REF 2021. So this was the last survey of the research excellence of law schools in the UK. And you can see we were ranked 15th. So that shows you that our professors here in the law school are not only good at teaching, but we publish and we have big research projects. Let me just give you an example. I'm a professor of intellectual property law, and at the moment I have a big research project which is funded by an organization called the British Academy. And my research project is looking at the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm looking at the COVID-19 pandemic from a legal perspective to find out whether the intellectual property, particularly the patents relating to COVID-19 vaccines, prevented particularly middle-income developing countries from receiving vaccines in a timely way, or alternatively, whether vaccines on COVID-19 protected by intellectual property like patents were facilitated by the existence of intellectual property to the extent that licensing agreements allowed the scaling up of manufacture throughout the world. So we've got two sides of the argument there. One, the existence of intellectual property inhibited and stopped the rolling out of COVID-19 vaccines. Whereas alternatively, we could say perhaps that the existence of intellectual property and patents in particular helped and facilitated the scaling up and manufacture of COVID-19 vaccines. And with my research team, I've been speaking to the heads of intellectual property in large vaccine manufacturing companies. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to the head of IP at a company called BioNTech, who licensed their intellectual property on the vaccines to an American company called Pfizer. And many of you will have heard of that particular COVID-19 vaccine. So we're finding out the role that intellectual property played in the vaccine scaling up. And that's an example of research which would help to assist our ranking in the Research Excellence Framework. And our professors here at Queen Mary are all research active, undertaking many, many similar projects. In fact, I was just looking at an application that a colleague of mine is making here at Queen Mary about artificial intelligence and intellectual property, and undertaking a research project in that field as well. So we've seen some examples so far of our excellence in terms of rankings, both in terms of teaching and in terms of research. Let me now turn to show you some pictures of our building here at Queen Mary. In fact, on the top right, when you see some of our students walking in the street, that's a photo which is taken if you leave our building here in Lincoln's Inn Fields. If you look to the left, that's the view that you have outside our building. Elsewhere, you see some pictures taken of our students in class with some of our professors. And turning to our faculty, one of the amazing things for me, as you can probably hear from my accent, I'm British. My family from Scotland. I was brought up in England, so I call myself British because I'm a mix of English and Scottish. But actually at Queen Mary, it's quite unusual for me to be a British law professor because our faculty is incredibly international. And that really reflects the fact that our focus is on international and comparative law from a commercial perspective here at Queen Mary. So our faculty here in CCLS alone, we have over 30 law professors, and they're from all parts of the world, from Argentina, from Chile, from China, from India, from all different parts of the world. And they reflect really the international flavor, not only of our faculty and our approach to teaching law, but of course our student body, which is extremely diverse. I think our principal of Queen Mary announced at a graduation ceremony recently that we have more than 180 nationalities represented. So it's an incredible opportunity for networking, both with your professors and networking with your fellow students. I was welcoming some new LLM students who were January starters here at CCLS just 2 weeks ago. And I told them a real life story about how I traveled to Brazil to meet some of my former students. And one of the students said, "Shall I tell you the best thing about Queen Mary?" And I expected him to say, "Well, of course, it's the professors." And he said, "Yeah, that's good. But one of the great things about Queen Mary was the contacts that you make and the friendships you make with young lawyers from all around the world." And he gave me a practical example of a client coming to his office in Brazil, his law firm, and saying to my former student, "I have a problem with law in Mexico." And my former student in Brazil said, "I know just the person who can deal with that. One of the top commercial lawyers in Mexico was a classmate of mine at Queen Mary University of London." And those friendships, but also those professional contacts that you would have no opportunity to acquire elsewhere are available for you here at Queen Mary. And it's those lifelong friendships and professional networks, which I think are really an added value of what we offer here at Queen Mary. And of course, we have over 800 students on our master's program this year. So that's a lot of nationalities. It's a lot of people to meet, and it's a lot of friendships that you'll treasure for life. Turning now to say a bit more about our location. As I mentioned in my introductory remarks, we're located here in the legal heart of London. Outside my window, I have a wonderful view of the tower of the Royal Courts of Justice, the High Court. And this is particularly useful for our students, both in terms of being able to attend trials. As you may know, the division of the Royal Courts of Justice which deals with commercial law is called the Chancery Division. Those Chancery Division trials are open to the public, and often we will take our students to sit in on a trial involving various matters of commercial law. In addition, our location to the Royal Courts of Justice is mirrored in the fact that High Court judges, senior members of the judiciary, together with senior members of the legal professions, barristers and solicitors, have their chambers and their firm's offices very close by. In fact, we have on either side of us major international law firms. And that location means that the judiciary, barristers, and solicitors come into our building and talk to our students. And just last semester, for example, one of my colleagues in intellectual property invited Lord Justice Burse from the Court of Appeals just to come and chat and give an informal talk to a class of students. And he was delighted to do that. So those relationships that we have with the judiciary and the legal profession are really cemented and embedded in our location, just a few steps away from the Royal Courts of Justice. Of course, we have the facilities of the main campus of Queen Mary available as well, just a short underground ride away, where there are sports facilities and leisure facilities available to the students. Also, just 10 minutes walk away from our Lincoln's Inn Field location is the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. Now, the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies is part of the University of London, which of course Queen Mary is also a member of. And the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies has a wonderful library. In fact, many years ago, I sat and studied in the University of London Institute of Advanced Legal Studies library, working on my LLM dissertation. And that's a wonderful resource with study facilities and unrivaled access both to physical collections of case law and materials, and also online resources. So again, our location is helpful because it gives us access to multiple facilities, not only at Queen Mary, but in the wider University of London. But our location here, and you see again on the left, our building where I'm speaking to you from today, but we also have other programs because as an international university, we reach out into the wider field of commercial law on a global scale. For many years, for example, I've been teaching on our parallel LLM program in Paris, where we share a building with the British Council. Actually, the photo that you see in the middle of the Eiffel Tower in the background, that iconic landmark, and the very Parisian-looking street with a cafe, that's just a few steps away from our building. So we're again located very centrally in Paris, and students do have the opportunity to study in Paris for the LLM instead of the London program. And the student experience in Paris is equal to the London program in terms of access to our London-based professors traveling to Paris to deliver classes. However, the number of students in Paris is a bit smaller than the London program, so it's a different experience. We teach in English in Paris, but the classes are smaller than the London program. It's a parallel program. In addition, we also have a Singapore program, which again follows a similar model to Paris, as I've just described. So as a global university, this is incredibly important for us, and we're very proud of our global reach and opportunities for students to study on a global scale. Let me now say something about the LLM itself. As I've already indicated, with over 800 students, we're one of the largest LLM programs in the world. But you probably won't notice that you're part of a student body of over 800 students, because those 800 students are divided up into 180 different modules focusing on different aspects of commercial law. And as I'll explain in a moment, those 180 choices, effectively 180 modules. These are choices of different classes that the students are able to follow. They're divided into different specialist programs, dealing with, for example, banking and finance, with tax law, with arbitration, or in my case, with intellectual property law. And actually, we're launching a new program in the future, which will deal with fashion law. So the students are not in particularly large classes because of the number of different possibilities that we offer to you. And in fact, I think your biggest challenge will be to choose which of the enticing choice of modules you'll be able to choose from. So just turning to the second bullet point, you'll genuinely be part of an international cohort, as I've explained. I've said that there are more than 800 students on the LLM program. We also run a number of specialist programs relating to intellectual property law for trainee patent attorneys and for trainee trademark attorneys. And the more than 200 students who follow those so-called specialist programs for trademark and patent attorney qualifications take the total number of taught student programs to over 1,000 students. I've also indicated that we're very much a research-led program. I have a class taking place later this afternoon where I'm going to be trying out some of my current research activities on the students. We're going to do small group activities where I'm going to ask the students to try and negotiate on behalf of a country that they're representing because they have a public health crisis and they're worried that the patent law will prevent them from making available life-saving medicines to the global for their population, and they want to try and negotiate a way around this legal problem. So that relates to my research, but it also kind of indicates to you how we have a research-led ethos to teaching. A lot of the things that we're teaching you won't find in the textbooks. This is really cutting-edge research that we're engaging with in terms of our student learning activities. There's also an opportunity for students to show their own creativity and diversity by giving class presentations, or in my case, in semester one, that was semester between October and December, I was running a mooting class, which was actually credit bearing, where students had to argue before a real life judge on a matter of patent law, and they were actually graded on their oral arguments, their decorum and their behavior before the judge, and that was a credit-bearing module. So we have a range of different learning activities and different ways of assessing the types of legal skills that you're going to need to put into practice when you complete your LLM and you enter the profession. So let me now drill down and turn more specifically to the format of the LLM. The starting point is really to think about an LLM being awarded to a Queen Mary student who achieves 180 credits. So a master's degree in law requires 180 credits. In order to accumulate those 180 credits during the 1-year program of study for the LLM, the students can choose for themselves modules which essentially will add up to a total of 180. A student who is following a specialism, such as in arbitration or banking and finance or intellectual property, must choose at least 120 of those credits from the specialism offering. So, for example, in my specialism, intellectual property, the students would be offered a choice of copyright law, trademark law, patent law, plus design law, and many, many variations of that from international or national perspectives. And 120 of those credits must come from a specialism in order to leave Queen Mary with the award of a LLM in a specialist subject area, such as intellectual property or the other examples that I've given. However, students can also graduate from Queen Mary without a specialism LLM and just have the general commercial law LLM. There is also the possibility for students to optionally obtain 30 credits by means of a dissertation, which is usually undertaken from the period commencing the second semester of study until the end of the full academic year. So, for example, for September starters, you would choose your dissertation topic, and in January, at the beginning of the second semester, you would be allocated a professor as your dissertation supervisor. You would then have the opportunity to make appointments with the professor, to meet that professor in their office, and to discuss how to undertake an independent research project leading to a dissertation, which is then graded and awarded 30 credits. And that is a nice option for students who really want to have a deep dive and undertake an independent research project relating to a particular field of study. So I've explained a little bit about how the modules fit together, about the specialist modules, the modules which come outside the specialism, which would take you then to that total of 180. And in the middle, the possibility of including in that total of 180 credits an optional dissertation elective. So here's a summary of what I've explained to you. Now we can see it in a kind of a format of a block with taught program, another block with dissertation. You see the total of 180 credits. You see below that on the left-hand side that in order to obtain a specialism LLM, such as LLM in intellectual property law, at least 120 credits must come from the modules which are accredited for your chosen stream of study, such as intellectual property. And no more than 60 credits can come from other LLM modules. So, for example, if I keep with the example of intellectual property law, 120 from the IP specialism, and then the other 60 could come from a mix of a dissertation or modules from arbitration law or company law or other fields of commercial law. And as I've indicated, there's the possibility, if you undertake the general laws LLM, actually just to take any of the modules. But again, you must add up to 180 to be awarded the LLM degree. And a little bit more about the dissertation. You can see from the right-hand side that the dissertation carries with it the possibility of obtaining 30 credits towards the total of 180. It's a 10,000 word dissertation, and there are different permutations, which I won't go into specifically, which can help you achieve that dissertation grade towards your final LLM. In terms of the choice of modules, I was already saying that probably the toughest job you'll have as students at Queen Mary is which modules shall I take? Um, the modules available obviously are organized within specialisms, so that honeycomb design you see on the right of the screen gives you some indication of the different specialisms that it's possible to choose from. And using the model that I highlighted to you on the previous slide, it's possible to take a combination of compulsory modules, which enable you to graduate with a specialism LLM degree, and electives, so free modules, perhaps from another specialism, if you wanted to demonstrate to future employers that you have a good combination, for example, of banking and finance, but you also have expertise in shipping law or art law or competition law. So you can kind of mix and match and create your own individual portfolio of expertise. And the dissertation, as I've indicated, is really an independent to undertake an independent research project where you will meet perhaps 2 or 3 times with the professor who's your supervisor, but most of the work will be undertaken yourself. So the student will decide for themselves what is the research question that they're seeking to answer in the research. How will they plan to undertake original research, and can they then demonstrate that they have original research findings and what the implications of those research findings might be for our understanding of that particular field of law. So you can imagine that this is quite a different learning experience from the taught modules. But many students like to show that they have this independent dissertation research expertise, as well as passing the graded papers, whether this is an exam or an assessed essay or a take-home exam, which comes from the modules which I've described. And different modules have different assessment methods. So again, you can choose the type of assessment methods that you want, depending on the modules which you choose. The link between research and teaching is also highlighted in the way that we organize our research activities as academics, as professors, within the different research institutes of Queen Mary. So for many years, I've been a director of the Queen Mary Intellectual Property Research Institute, what we call QIMPRI, which you'll see at the top left of this slide. And this is an opportunity for us to host our annual conference, at which experts in the field are invited to. So for example, last June, we hosted our annual Queen Mary Intellectual Property Research Institute on the topic of AI and intellectual property. The previous year, we looked at the topic of intellectual property and sustainability in the environment. So each year, we're able to bring in experts who talk to practitioners, and our students are also able to enroll and attend the conference. So again, a network opportunity with the profession and with the academic community more widely. Throughout the year, the institutes also organize evening talks by leading experts. In fact, I've just invited the director of the World Trade Organization Committee on Intellectual Property to come and give a talk in May of this year, at which practitioners and students will be invited to attend free of charge an evening talk by an expert in the field. And this type of approach of different activities, different events is mirrored throughout the different research institutes that we have at Queen Mary. Just some examples that you see in front of you on that slide. I won't say too much about entry requirements, because one of the pleasures of teaching at Queen Mary for more than 20 years is the high quality of the students that we have, which enables us to offer a high quality learning experience because the students are coming often without any specialist knowledge of the subjects that they're studying. Um, but I always describe it as like having an encyclopedia of law in front of you, because you can ask the students, well, how would you apply this legal principle in China or India or Thailand, different countries in the world? So we're able to bring students' knowledge to class discussions in a way which I always find incredibly rewarding. In terms of language skills, again, we find that the students perform very well if they meet the requirements, which you will see in the second half of the slide on the screen at the moment. But we also offer something called pre-sessional English for students who may be falling just short of those entry requirements. So it's always worth checking with admissions when you apply to see whether it's possible to undertake a pre-sessional to help support you, even if you might have just missed those scores for our standard entry requirements. One of the other things which I find incredibly rewarding as I travel around the world and talk about my area of intellectual property law is wherever I go, whether that's in Australia or United States or Brazil or Thailand or China or South Africa, I always meet former students wherever I go. And I'm always incredibly proud of what they've achieved in their careers. So the employability of our graduate students with the LLM is extremely good. The brand name of Queen Mary and the LLM, when I travel, is a trademark which is incredibly well respected in the legal professions internationally. It's a mark of the quality of the legal educations that the students have acquired. And just last week, I was talking to some students from Germany, current LLM students, who were saying to me that in German law firms, the LLM is still considered a high quality and one of the best LLMs available. We also support the students here at Queen Mary. We've got specialist career advisors. We have an in-house internship and mentoring program where we match students with potential mentors or firms in the legal profession which can provide internships. And I've even had some of my students who've interned for Supreme Court judges here in the UK. So we're able to use our contacts to recommend mentoring and internship opportunities. And again, the judges or the lawyers who take on mentoring or interns know that they're going to get high quality trainees because they're coming from Queen Mary. So it's quite a circular a virtuous circle, I would say, in terms of providing the right people to the right organizations for internship and mentorship. We also work a great deal on our research projects and elsewhere with international organizations. For example, in Geneva, at the World Intellectual Property Organization, many of my former students seem to be running the World Intellectual Property Organization, many of them coming from diverse countries such as Colombia or Italy. And when I receive emails from the World Intellectual Property Organization, often I discover that they're from my former students. And again, that makes me incredibly proud of what they've achieved. So the network, you'll get the impression is something which is incredibly important for us and to our former students. And many actually come back for a PhD. I've got 4 PhD students that I'm supervising at the moment in the field of patent law. And all of them are my former LLM students. One from Poland, one from Turkey, one from India, and one from Estonia. So again, it shows you the range of different countries that we have accept our students from. Now, of course, there is the possibility after you leave Queen Mary to remain part of the LLM community. You can see some examples of our LLM alumni network of our former students. In fact, the top right picture, and you can see that's me towards the back in the white shirt on the left at a wonderful rooftop restaurant in Sao Paulo in Brazil with some of my former students who are all now partners at leading law firms. So amazing, amazing network of students. So we love to support these activities and to visit our students in different countries and meet our former students as well. The number of alumni chapters, these former student networks, is growing, and we now have 28. I take the lead with Brazil, as I just explained, and also in Germany. And in Germany, I organized alumni dinners last year in Hamburg, in Frankfurt, in Munich, and in Berlin. An amazing opportunity. And again, just a quick anecdote, a quick story. Two former students arrived at the dinner in the restaurant for the reunion in the city of Frankfurt and realized that they both worked for Clifford Chance law firm in Frankfurt, but neither of them realized that both were Queen Mary alumni. So the network grows, and it's a fantastic community. So coming to the end of my brief overview now, here are some useful links, and I'm sure that these slides will be made available to you after the session today. And as you can see, if you want to find further information, you can find information about the different networks that we have and the alumni and postgraduate testimonials about their experiences at Queen Mary via these links. And with that, I will end my talk and we'll take any questions. But for further information, here are the contact details of my colleague, Gaetano Demeter, and also of the law school postgraduate office here in Lincoln's Inn Fields. And you'll also find us on social media. And if you come to Queen Mary, we look forward to meeting you. If you don't, please keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. Um, I have one question from Kane, asking, he's just wondering how much of the research integration is theoretical versus practical. He's looking at the IP, data and information law MSc, and would it mostly be dedicated to developing practical skills or mostly analysis slash research?
Okay, that's a very good question. And I'm happy to take that question offline and put you in touch with our colleagues who lead that MSc program. I don't teach on that program, so I don't want to say anything which is inaccurate for you. But I think it's a really good question to clarify in advance how much is research-based for the MSc in terms of the data analysis. So Corinne, if you could get hold of the details for that, we can pass that inquiry on, since that's quite a specialist question. Thank you.
Yes, of course. I have one other question. I don't know if I really understand this question, but I think they're asking how can they become a member of like the IEP community before they start study? Is there anything that you would recommend to get involved in before becoming a student?
Yeah, I understand. the thing that the question was specifically about IP, which is a good question for me. And what I would recommend is just start following some of the blogs to get a sense of what debates are the kind of the hot topics at the moment in the field of intellectual property law. And if you do an internet search for a blog called IPCat, so it's easy to remember, except for the only difference is that the word cat is spelled with a K. So it's the letter I, the letter P, followed by KAT. And the IPCat blog is the go-to resource for the IP profession in the United Kingdom. And in addition to, you can sign up for daily alerts, but in addition, they also advertise free to attend events. So often law firms will have a rapid response briefing following a major legal decision. So the IPCat would be the place that I would recommend, free of charge, sign up for the blog, and keep an eye on those posts.
Perfect. Thank you. Alex asks if all of the IP classes are taught in LIF or are they also taught on Myland?
The answer is that they're all taught here in Lincoln's Inn Fields. So that's quite a straightforward one. So the IP professors are all based here in Lincoln's Inn Fields. And I'm just going to take, like, I think 10 steps to my right as I leave my office and go to my class straight after the call today.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I think you went over this, but someone said they'll be joining the tax law LLM and they want to know if they can choose IP modules whilst on the tax law program.
Yeah, I can answer that one because we've reviewed that offering recently, and we've just confirmed that all the IP modules will be available for students who are specializing, for example, in tax law or in arbitration, etc. The only exception is that we're introducing next September a new module which is called Foundations of IP Law, where the students can get training and expertise in patents and copyright and designs and trademarks by taking one module. And that module is especially for the IP students. But the question from a potential student from tax law is everything else that you see on our website, that amazing list of modules is available for non-IP specialists.
Amazing. Thank you. Somebody said that they're very passionate about IP law, and can you recommend some books?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Yeah, as you can see, I've got a lot of books. What can I find here for you? This one. Okay. So this isn't the latest edition because the latest edition, I've got an ebook. But can you see the bottom? Those are the authors. The book is published by Cambridge University Press. And the first author is Professor Bentley from Cambridge University. So the book has a very simple title, Intellectual Property Law. And it's Bentley, Sherman, Ganji, and Johnson. So this is what I would say is the standard textbook. So you have chapters in this book on all the separate fields of intellectual property law, patents, trademark, copyrights, designs, and trade secrets. So this should be the book that I would recommend as the starting point. And this is what I ask my students to read in the first weeks of the semester.
Amazing. Thank you. I think that's all of our questions, which is amazing. You're very thorough. So thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, Duncan, for presenting and telling us everything that we need to know and for recommending your book. And we hope to see you guys at an event soon and to see your applications in the future.
Hope to see some of you at Queen Mary, and good luck with your legal careers.
Amazing. Thank you.
Bye.